Rah, rah, rah. Like putting a dog collar around my neck at the Dr. Green Thumb show and having Aton test out what a 80% charge is, and they film me and I post it on Instagram. It gets people's attention. They're like, what the hell is this crazy dude doing? I sold my house because of a hater of the barbecue business. I had to go to court over a no trespass issue because of a brewery that disliked me to the point that they called the police on me on some bullshit. And then I've had a restaurant taken away from me. Dude, it's just like nonstop. If I got some notoriety at one point was when I made some statement that I'm gonna start charging $6 for the Wagyu smashburgers singles because everyone's charging too much. And then that got picked up by some blogs and Instagram posts online, and got a bunch of people down there to start buying burgers off me like a couple years ago. It started because of E-Zone. He was mad that I wasn't gonna wear this Buzz Lightyear outfit on it.
Is that you love cooking barbecue and you love serving people, so much so that you almost died on an episode of High and Hungry. What's poppin'? It's your boy Moses, aka NoMo, chilling right here inside the Lit Outlet studio with another episode of the Lit Outlet podcast. Before I introduce my guest, I want to make an announcement. We now have a new Patreon tier. It is $30 a month. On this tier, you get a free t-shirt or a free hat every month just by supporting the podcast. You still get early access to all of our episodes. So before we get started, I just want to make the announcement. Go on patreon.com. It's the number one way to support the podcast. We do have $3, $5, $10 tiers, but the $30 tier is the best way to become the ultimate Liddy. Now let's introduce our guest. I got the very special Mr.
Dustin Bartz from Bartz Barbecue. I do like Texas style barbecue for a lot of different events, and also I'm like on the Dr. Green Thumb show. We Don't Smoke the Same podcasts, High and Hungry TV. So I do a bunch of like also podcasts and stuff like that too. And then I cook for like Be Real, Cypress Hill, E-Zone, and all the Be Real TV hangout crew that's there, like Steph and the Deftones and everyone else. I mean, I just like do a bunch of weird stuff ever since the pandemic happened with the food business, that I wasn't doing prior. So
okay, we're definitely gonna get into the meats and juices of this whole podcast, right? Into the barbecue. But would you say, are you the most popular barbecue master out there right now?
Well, I make extremely good barbecue. There's plenty of other people that make great barbecue too, but I definitely online have a different personality than most do as far as in the food business goes. I mean, I definitely have a lot of strange things that happened to me over the last several years that I post quite a bit online about. Right. And but yeah, I make like the brisket's like the main thing that people all want. I make really good Texas style brisket, beef ribs. We do pork belly burn ends. I do it. We do smash burgers too. We have like this Wagyu smash burger I make with brisket on top that people like a lot. And I have like these two mammoth smokers that are like 30 feet long a piece that I cook on. And yeah, we do a lot of big events. We did like Rhyme Fest backstage recently, and we do 400 person catering jobs all the time and stuff like that. And yeah,
because I don't think there's any other. What do you consider yourself, a barbecue pit master? What is it called? What do you do?
That's what people call it, like a barbecue pit master. I mean, it's not like something you go to school for. I mean, something like, I mean, there's people that in their backyard, they're the pit master, you know? So I don't really, I mean, there's like people in Texas that like, there's some sort of process they go through it, like working for somebody and learn how to cook barbecue. Well, that's not how I learned how to cook it. I just learned on my own. So I mean, I cook very good barbecue, so if that qualifies to be a barbecue pit master, I can use that term. I prefer like someone call me a chef or something like that instead, because like I can cook all types of stuff, not just barbecue. Mm-hmm. I mean, like I do all types of variations of different stuff. I just don't do barbecue. Anything you want me to cook for you. I do vegan food too.
No way.
Yeah, I do. I had to learn how to do vegan food during the pandemic for some jobs, so. Yeah, I make really good vegan food though. In addition, I mean, we have these 0% vegan shirts to say we don't, but like, I do make vegan food also.
The reason why I bring that up is because you have a catchphrase that everyone comments and everyone says. Tell me about the catchphrase, bro.
Oh, it's like mrah, mrah. So it's like this. At one point, when I became friends with Be Real and Cypress Hill, and I started being on their podcast, or it was a podcast then, but now it's a show. But the Dr. Green Thumb show.
Right.
So there's like, there's like 5 people on that, show talking about a bunch of nonsense and just getting stoned is essentially what the whole point is. And so I was on it several times, and one day I was having a very bad day, and for various reasons, and I was already drinking before I got there. And then, I ran into Psycho Les, and he likes to drink, so we had some more whiskey shots before the show. So, and then I brought the bottle on the show. So I was on the show, and like, I was out of line. I was wasted. You're not supposed to like talk over Be Real when he's talking, or anyone for that matter, but especially him.
Right.
So I was like annoying him because I kept on just talking, being drunk, and I ended up drinking the whole bottle. It was fuck, what whiskey was it? But anyways, I drank a 750 basically by myself in like an hour and a half, minus a few shots Psycho Les had during that time, and I think Be Real had 1 shot during the show. Anyways, so I was tanked. I kept on having to go to the bathroom or whatever, and I went up like the 3rd time to go to the bathroom. Like, they have like the cameras because everyone has like a straight shot on it. So there's like 5, 6 cameras on this show, and I stepped on the wrong cable. I'm clumsy as it is, but I was obviously wasted too. And like I stepped on this cable, and like fucking the camera behind the the screen fell down, and I grabbed the camera, and this freaking light that falls down, and I'm right behind like Stefan of the Deftones is right there, and he knows some shit's going down. Because Psycho Les is just looking like, what the fuck, and then Be Real's like, come on, man, and like fuck, like cut, we had to cut the show. It was a live feed. I had to cut the show because I basically took out this camera. So later on, after I got kicked off the show that day, basically, I don't know, I fell down or something, and I was getting up, and I was trying to tell Be Real something, and all it came out was this, rah! So he hears this noise, and he's already mad, and he tells this to Eric Bobo of Cypress Hill, and he starts just laughing. And so now they turn this noise of me destroying the set, that's what it is, into this thing where every time, like, all I hear is this noise. It's all over the internet. It's mrah. Like, there's not even a way to spell it. Like, if you ask Bobo how to say it, he says it totally different than the way I say it. Then Be Real says a certain way, and they all say it different ways. So it's just like this MEERRH, or no H. Some people don't like the H at the end.
Yeah.
So that's why there's not even shirts made for it. It's just this like phrase that now even like my parents try to say it to me, and it's like, oh my God, like this is out of control.
It's transcending.
It's like, it's just, well, they see my Instagram post, and they're just like, yeah, everyone. So it's basically me when I destroyed the Be Real TV Dr. Green Thumb set, that was the noise that came out of me at some point.
That's hilarious.
Or that's what they heard.
That's like if you were an action figure, that would be the first phrase.
It's like, that is like the most bizarre thing. I mean, because like I have nicknames too. Like they call me like the Brisket King and like a bunch of other stuff. But then it's just this noise. So now it's like anytime anything goes bad, they're just like, rah. Or I walk in and see them, or anyone sees, rah. I hear it like 5 times. It's like, okay, well, whatever. I guess
people that never met you before, just saying the
people that follow me online that never met me before, like say the noise. Like they'll come to my pop-ups or whatever, and like, yeah. Or if they say it, then I know they follow me. That's the thing. It's like almost like a code word. It's like, oh, I know you follow me for sure.
Secret
handshake. It's the only way you know that noise.
How do you even get on the Be Real? How do you know Be Real? Because you're in Southgate, right? Southgate claims Cypress Hill and Be Real like as the king of the city here. We idolize them just because they're the only popular pop culture rap group that's ever made it out of this city where I grew up, right? So we're big on Be Real and Cypress Hill. How did you get in contact with them? How did you become on the show?
So, like, during the pandemic, when everything was shut down, because I used to just do pop-ups at these breweries. That was, like, my main gig. I had a smoker. I cooked on site for, like, breweries for their food service. And then when everything shut down for the pandemic, I was like, oh, shit. There's no breweries open. There's nothing open. Like, what the fuck am I? What am I gonna do? So luckily for me, my stuff was stored at my buddy's film studio in Hawthorne, where they did filming and stuff and events and stuff like that at this place. And that's where I had my smoker and this food trailer. And Sony Studios came in and they're like, oh, we want to try this new technology, this virtual reality concert thing with this other company from the UK. So like they came in and we were the only ones willing to stay open during the pandemic. Every other studio said like, no way, we're not going to do it. We don't care about COVID. We don't want no one to get sick, whatever. So my homie didn't give a shit. He wanted to make money. So I was already on site. So I was their built-in food guy. So they didn't have to call out for food. They loved it. They just said, okay, today we're having this artist here. Going to be like total 40 people. You know, they had all these rules where everyone had to stay in different sections of the place because COVID. You know, it was right when it first started. It was like when shit was. You know, they still didn't know what was going on. So we got approved because we were a news agency by the city. That's how we were able to stay open. Everyone hated that we were making money because everyone else was closed, and we like stayed open. I did like John Legend, like the bigger names were like John Legend. I mean, the biggest was Cypress Hill. So they came out one day, you know, and like they, you know, everyone had like 2 or 3 people that we had to feed, the artists and like maybe their tour manager or something, or their, you know, personal assistant. It was very small. You weren't supposed to bring a lot of people. So Cypress Hill already had like, you know, the 5 of them and like a couple extra people. So it was like 7. So I was like, okay, well, you know, maybe I'll make barbecue for those guys. They probably like that because I had like this food budget. I had to keep it down under a certain amount of money so I could make profit off it. But it was just a consistent basis thing I was doing. So it made it so at least I was surviving. So they said they had 7, and the next thing you know, the next morning they're like, no, they got like 25 people they're bringing, and it's like 25 people. That's crazy. Like that's the most people like any artist has ever. Like, it wasn't 25, maybe it was 20, but it was a whole bunch. It went from this point to this point. So I'm like, well, good thing I'm making barbecue for these guys because that was the only way I was able to achieve. Because I just had the little kitchen to make the food. It was only good for like 30 or 40 people, and I had to make 60 people. So I make all this barbecue. I'm like, well, hopefully they like barbecue. We sent it in there to them. And like they weren't supposed to have any contact with us or anything like that, but they kept on coming out all stoned out, different people in their group. I mean, I know who they are now, but back then I didn't know that. They just kept on coming out asking for like a business card. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? It's like COVID. Everything's shut down. Like, when am I ever going to? Sure, you want a business card? Here you guys go. Here you go. So just pass out all these business cards. And 2 weeks later, a week or 2 later, I get a phone call from, you know, Pedro, and who works for them. And, he's like, hey, yeah, you want to come down, and we want you to come down and bring all that food, like the whole assortment like we had at that show. And I'm like, okay, well, like everything's shut down. This is Cypress Hill for real? And they're like, yeah, you know, we met you at that thing. And I'm like, you give us your card? I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. So I'm like, oh, it's $500, you know, like, you know, for all the stuff they wanted. So I go down to the studio, drop it off. There, sure enough, B-Real's there, and like no one's there wearing masks, and everyone else is wearing masks. Everyone else, so that was kind of weird whole thing to me. Right. You know, me and my guys got our mask on. Everyone else wants, you know, all these requirements, COVID, you know, and I'm just like, okay, they're just hanging out here. This is great. Okay, sure, give them the food. And I took my photo with them because I was like, I don't know if I ever come back here again. I at least want to post that online that I served B-Real food during the pandemic. That's some wacky shit, you know. And because I told people how I did it at the thing. But there was like, no, we couldn't contact them or take photos and stuff like that, you know. And I wanted the photo because like I'm a big Cypress Hill fan. Like that's one of the few people I went to see a whole bunch of shows for back when I was in high school and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, this is dope. So we fucking, I go back, and like a few days later I get called again saying, yeah, you know, can you do it again on this date? So like every 2 weeks I was basically bringing this food down there during the height of the pandemic for almost like a year straight. I mean, it got to the point where like, you know, we talked to them and stuff like that. It wasn't just like we're just some food vendor bringing food in, but you know, we weren't like homies or friends really much back then. And then like one day, like it was like the 420 in like, I guess it must have been 2021 before stuff really opened up during the pandemic. They were doing this their own virtual reality show, virtual concert or whatever. And I'm like, hey man, if I bring the food, I'll bring the food if I can just come hang out, you know, and see this, because there was nothing going on. So I said, sure, no problem. You bringing food? Come on down. So we went down there, I brought food, you know, for them and like all the crew they had then, you know, and stuff like that. And it was like cool because we're sitting there, you know, watching a Cypress Hill show when everyone else is stuck at home, me and my other homies that came with me. So that was like the first time I brought like, you know, food down there just to hang out. And then, you know, eventually I just started making like, because I used to have backyard barbecues back before the pandemic where my friends would come back to my house and hang out. But that kind of all stopped after, you know, during the pandemic. People weren't going nowhere. So I just started bringing food down to them, like whenever I felt like doing it, to some new shit, because like I had no one else to try the food. So I just started bringing food down there, and eventually after you're there enough times, you start hanging out and so forth. So that's how I became friends with them. And then like so then it was my birthday, like I think of 2021. That's when I asked B Real, I'm like, hey man, for my birthday, like I'll be here the next day. Can I like be on the show? And he's just like, oh yeah, whatever. You want to be on the show? Like, no problem. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I was there on my birthday, and then a couple other times like after that, and then I was on a whole bunch like when they went on this big tour, because they need a bunch of people to be on the show because they're still doing the show, and B Real's not there to do the show, or sometimes he'd call in remotely. They had it at one point where he was doing the show, but they needed people because they didn't have enough people to be on the show like that they knew. So I was on a whole bunch during like this one summer, like probably like 3 or 4 times a week almost. And so I was on a whole bunch then, and then I've been on, because of that, I'm friends with E-Zone, so I've been on We Don't Smoke the Same podcast. Me and him done like High and Hungry TV shows together. And that when, like, 'cause I hook him up with a bunch of food vendors I knew that were friends of mine. I'm like, oh yeah, you just go there, talk to this guy, and you can film that, no problem. So I've been on that show, and so yeah, that's how I got on the show. It was just like during the pandemic, by selling them. I guess that was the best plate of food I ever gave anyone, because they hooked up this whole relationship off this one-time food thing, and the worst, for some people, the worst time of their lives,
Yeah.
when everything was like no one could do nothing. So for me, it actually made it a lot more enjoyable. The whole pandemic was, being friends with them and like actually being able to go somewhere that was like not all weirded out, like because every place was weirded out down there. There was none of this. Strange behavior people had during the pandemic,
Right. All that pussy shit, just say it.
Well, I mean, there was just all this weird shit. I mean, it was just every day you had to figure out there was some new regulation in California that and it just freaked all these certain people out. And, and it was just like, I mean, I got vaccinated because I had no choice. It was either that or I didn't get these big catering jobs because they wanted to see your vaccination card. So like me and all the guys that worked for me hadn't, I mean, and some of these things, they really were checking into these cards to make sure that it was like legit. That was the thing, because some of it was like these like Hollywood type things I was doing and stuff. And, those guys were just paranoid as hell. Like, I'll never forget having put a million little fucking things in containers for no reason at all whatsoever. Like every little item had to be in its own little container so they could just touch it. And you couldn't just put it like on a platter. It was the worst time in the food business to have to do so much. I mean, oh man, so much fucked up shit during that time.
So you've probably been friends with him for like 2 or 3 years. Is it when you like, even to this day, when you see him or talk to him, is it kind of surreal? Because growing up, being a fan of somebody and then all of a sudden you're homies with them, sounds like, to me, I don't know, a little surreal, right?
It's strange. I mean, well, at this point, like, I think I've been around him more than a lot of friends that are like that I've known for longer. To tell you the truth, because I mean, sometimes I was down there as many as like 3 or 4 times a week during the pandemic, or like easily. So like, I mean, we ride like bikes now together. I mean, there's all these activities they like to do. Like the whole group, they always want to do activities. So it's like, it's just a weird thing. I don't know. It's like I got his, like, B-Real gave me his phone number early on when we first met, like his actual phone number. When I got that, I was like, that was weird. I was like, this is actually your phone number? Like, you must have a million phones. No, he has this one phone number. And I was like, okay, well, that's pretty weird. You trust me? And like, it was when I was trying to bring food down there one time, like brisket for them. And like the other guy, Pedro, I don't know, he didn't get the information to B-Real. And B-Real's just like on Instagram, he's like, look, here's my phone number. If you're having problems, just call me or text me or whatever, And I'm like, so I text him, like, this is really your phone number? He's like, yes, the only phone number I have. I'm like, okay, well, there you go. So that was kind of weird when I got his phone number. Like, before we were even like hanging out and stuff, I'm like, well, you guys must trust me enough to give me his phone number. Then I think I'm a total weirdo or something,
Right.
Because I would think that that's a case, when you're a celebrity, you get a bunch of weirdo people to try to, contact you. But yeah, so it was more weird when we were just serving the food the first 20 times we went down there and just brought it, because every time it just like, wow, this is weird. We're over here. We're still here. And now it's still like it's like, because you know, it's like I just go down, like they film every day at the studio, you know, and if I want to go hang out or bring food to them or whatever, I just know where they're at, so I just go there and then just like hang out, you know. And then sometimes they need people on the show, so like when I'm hanging out there, they're like, oh, we have a space, you want to get on the show? It's like, okay, I'll get on the show. So that's, and then like sometimes I bring food down there, you know, or some new recipe, and you know, it's always great, you know, because they're talking about the food, and I get, you know, helps my business for sure.
Right.
It's like a mutual thing. I mean, like
It's a little ecosystem.
there's all types of stuff I do. I mean, but that's the thing. A lot of people I know too that are famous do a bunch of stuff just to help get promotion. You know, you wouldn't think that's the case. You like assume everyone gets, you know, just does it to get paid, but a lot of people just do it just because they like doing it. And so, like for me, I like serving food to them because they always are very gracious to the whole thing. And if something sucks, they'll let me know, or you know, if I didn't, and then before I like give it to everyone else to get like the first preview a lot of times on new things I'm doing.
You have like you said, you don't only just do the barbecue, but you have sides, you have burgers, right? And you're known for like the burgers, the mac and cheese. People love the brisket, like you said. Is there anything that you've ever tried to make that failed? Like, you know, that was a bad idea, but I had to try it.
I mean, I do these pork belly burn ends, and which is like it's a, you know, just like a big old piece of bacon basically that you cook and smoke it, little squares, and like, I mean, I have like one, like a sauce I put on them, and that's the way I usually always turn them out. I mean, I've made variations of that thing with different flavors. You're like, oh yeah, let's put that on there, and it doesn't taste that good, or it doesn't look good. See, my thing is it has to look good and taste good. That's why I try to make sure everything looks right. And you know, usually, even if it tastes pretty good, if it looks right, people think, oh man, this is like the best thing ever, because everyone looks at the food before they eat it. So my thing is always to make sure it looks the way it's supposed to look, and it usually always tastes really good with it like that too. But yeah, pork belly burn ends, I did that one time. I mean, I don't like reinvent the wheel. That's the thing. See, I just go and like say, okay, here's a really good recipe for like lasagna. Let me just put brisket in there instead of like the, you know, whatever meat you're normally going to use to make your lasagna. So then it's like a brisket lasagna. But I mean, I know how to make a lasagna, and I just add that to it. So a lot of my stuff is combining things together with barbecue meats that are like newer things. But on the, I mean, I've made tons of bad barbecue, like on the whole process of doing it, because I mean, I started making barbecue because I lived in like Austin for like 3 years back when I was doing the security camera business I had, and I ate a lot of barbecue there, and I always thought I was missing something. There's some that I thought it was in LA, but I just must have been missing it the entire time before I moved to Austin. So I moved back to LA. I started hitting all the barbecue spots. They're supposedly the good ones, and I mean, there's a lot better ones now, but back then those were all not very good at all compared to what you get in Texas. So that's why I had to like figure out how to make it in my backyard. So I got a smoker, made it for my homies for like poker games for like 3-4 years before I actually even started selling anything. And that was just a fluke. I started selling food, but yeah. So like back then we had tons of bad barbecue. Everything I made was bad. I mean it wasn't like unedible bad, but I mean compared to what we do now, you know. So it's kind of like it's like I'm all about technique. Like if you know the techniques of something, you should be able to, or you know, follow directions, you should be able to get to the end result, especially on food. Like you may not be the best at it, but it's gonna be pretty good, you know. So I try to be pretty good on everything that I make, and then if it ends up that to the person that's like the best they've ever had of that thing, it's like great. I'm very happy that's what you think, you know. And then I mean, not too often, except for I've over-salted briskets in the past and stuff like that, where you know people eat in there, it's like no, this is not very good. But I mean, it's, you know, it's kind of like I was really good at Legos as a kid. And I kind of like cooking is the same thing to me as like Legos. You just like follow the directions and you'll make that end thing. I mean, you can also make your own thing with the Legos, yeah. which I do that too. But you know, I always follow the directions on how to make the actual thing first, and then go off and do my own thing, you know, with all the, you know, leftover pieces. So yeah, it's kind of like the food's like the same way to me as like Legos in my mind, kind of. That's how it kind of works.
It's obvious that you love cooking barbecue and you love serving people. So much so that you almost died on an episode of High and Hungry.
Oh yeah.
When Ezone was he was kind of like because obviously I've interviewed Ezone and XG. That's how I kind of ran into you or found you on their Instagram and their podcast.
I think I was the guy you're talking about when you're talking to Ethan. You're like, yeah, you had a burger guy on your show and someone else on the show, and I think I was the burger.
Because to me, like I've never seen a burger podcaster. Like it's just such a because you see your rappers, you see your comedians. There's a certain type of people that do open podcasters or do podcast episodes. Like, dude, you had a food guy in there, which is so cool because obviously being a big guy, I love food, but you love barbecue so much that you almost die to make it. Tell me about that one time you had like a heat stroke in the middle of
okay, so the one time that everyone caught on video was when I was doing this like grand opening at this new pop-up location that was going to possibly be my restaurant. So we had this, I mean, it was hot and it was very hot that day and the day before. And the barbecue thing starts like it starts the whole week before, but it starts definitely the morning before you're actually going to be serving, because that's when you start cooking like your briskets. So I cooked all these briskets, all this other stuff. Me and my guy that works for me, Ulysses, we were there all day long, to the point that when the stuff got done at nighttime, I only had like a few hours to get to my apartment and go to sleep and wake back up. So I never even went to sleep. I was like so much stuff going through my head. When I got there, I literally just laid down in my bed for like 2.5 hours, and I'm like, I gotta get back up and go back and start cooking. So I was up for, I mean, that point was over 24 hours then without sleep. And then I had to go back and start cooking and do this whole event that was like, I mean, we were giving out gift bags. We had multiple vendors coming, like Ezone was coming, other people sell merch and stuff like that. So I'm over there trying to make all this food I still have to make because I pre-sold all this barbecue. So I'm like, had to make it happen because I already sold it to people. They had their ticket, they got their platter, whatever, when they came in. So we went there, we set up all the stuff. It was hotter than heck that day. I was sweating, no sleep. I didn't probably eat anything either because a lot of times you don't eat when you're doing the barbecue, or at least I don't, because I'm just like focused on trying to make all these things happen, because I make all this food happen with me and one guy. I mean, there was like one other homie that was there helping us just to like learn and stuff, but it was basically me and my one guy made food for like 200 people, these big ass platters, cooked everything ourselves. I just have people come in to help me like, execute serving it and stuff usually. So we were in these big old tents. I was sweating. I got to a point where when the event was going on, and I told my guys, I'm like, I got to go lay down. Like it's too much. I like collapsed into this warehouse we had, and was just laying there on the fucking ground. Like I couldn't even get up. My hands were all curling up. My toes were curling up. I was so dehydrated. I was like a little baby T-Rex on the ground in the fetus position. And then like a fetal position, and then that's when someone got me up and they put me on a cart and like wheeled me back outside. And then that's when they had that video of me when I'm all like just destroyed, and Ezone sees it and it's like, oh man, I got to jump over there and get this on video, because this is gonna be great for my podcast or something, That's my friends, Those are my friends. Like, let's get them in the moment of his. So that's happened to me before. Well, I mean, I just laid there and I really needed an IV. And I actually have a guy that I called to give me IVs, but he was unavailable. So I literally just stayed there and I'm like, I'm just gonna have to lay down here for a minute. I drank a bunch of water. I mean, that doesn't really help you when you're that dehydrated. It actually makes it worse sometimes. But other people were there that, had some, bullshit electrolyte mix. I was trying to take that. Eventually got to the point where I just said, fuck it, I'm getting back up. I had to like pull my fingers all straight and like stand up and just start doing the rest of the event. Really, really messed up. But yeah, I pretty much, I mean, most people would go in the hospital. That's the thing. Like, but I had no choice. I had to keep on doing this thing. And like, I known in the past, I never went to the hospital. It just sucked, and like, I was hoping eventually my guy that does IVs would have called me up and said, hey, I can come down and give you IV, because that'll fix your whole problem. I mean, once you get an IV, if you're that dehydrated, you just like hire one of these guys, there's like numbers you can call and they'll come out there and hook you up to an IV and then you're good. But I didn't have that. I almost I didn't die, but I mean, I looked like I was gonna die. I mean, everyone was really concerned about me, and like,
you weren't looking too good, dude.
no. And I started, well, I was messed up because I started talking, and I was just like talking about nonsense at some points in the video. I don't know if that all got posted, but yeah, there was points where I was just like almost like a little delirious at times because I was so, dehydrated. Yeah, and stayed up for. I mean, I stayed up for 60 hours straight. Almost in the end, that's what it was. After like we stayed up for that day, the next day, and all that night to clean everything up, and I get back home till the next morning. It was 48 hours that day, and it was 60 hours when I had to cook all these briskets for my this big ass smoker I made for the holidays. I had to stay up 60 hours straight cooking a bunch of briskets one time. But that time, 48 hours straight. I mean, I've done that a lot of times in the barbecue business where you have to like just stay up multiple days because that's the only way it gets done, especially if you're the cooking guy, the pit master, whatever you want to put it as.
Yeah, the brisket king. To me, as far as podcasting, like I imagine one day I will hire someone to be behind the camera, to edit my videos, to do stuff. But right now, like it's my baby. I don't like no one touching my videos. I like to edit. I like to control what gets posted. At one point, you're going to have to pretty much hire somebody to help you cook, right? Or are you just so like, the meat has your name on it?
My current situation with these big ass, I think these two 30-foot smokers, like one has like it's 2,000 gallons, so it's two 1,000 gallon propane tanks on it. So you can cook like 60 briskets at a time on that thing or more. The other one has one of those tanks on it. Well, I have to be there because I got to like drive, like we're doing an event. I'm the one bringing this equipment out there. So I might as well cook too. I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like at least, I mean, to drive it somewhere and then have some other person that works for me cooking it. Because, I mean, I have one guy Ulysses that works for me that pretty much can run the thing by, more or less by himself. He knows everything there is, but, excuse me. But, I prefer to be there to see it all go down. I mean, what else am I going to do? Sit at home, It's like we got it better now situated so that we're not, I have not yet, since that one last time where I stayed up for 48 hours and had all the problems and the dehydration, I haven't stayed up that long lately.
Okay, good.
I mean, we had this, at the spot we were using, we had this whole thing set up so that we figured out how to get it so we could go sleep for like 4 or 5 hours. And I wasn't like, most of the time I don't have problems going to sleep. It was just that day, it was like all this stuff was going down in my mind. It was like too many unresolved things before like the day before this thing was happening. So it just made me not go to sleep, And someone in my apartment building was having some party or something like that. And I could hear like bass beating from somewhere in some direction. But, that's apartment life. Usually, but yeah, I try to make sure I don't repeat those steps I did previously because it took me like 2 days before I even was able to almost do anything because like my body was just like wrecked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
You were supposed to open up this. I think when this happened, this shop at that location, right? And now I've noticed in the last week you posted that they've erased your name from it. I guess you're looking for a new spot. Can you break down what happened? Is there some beef going on?
Well, I mean, so I don't know exactly what's going on. I mean, okay, so I had this this person that was investing, that already was building a restaurant.
Okay.
And a mutual friend connected me with this person to open this restaurant spot down on Broadway in Lincoln Heights. And they already went through almost all the permitting process, which takes like almost a year to get an authorization so you can turn a building into a restaurant. So you get this construction permit. And so he was right before the point he was getting this. And then I was going to actually like move to Kentucky. I was actually leaving LA because I was tired of all the homeless people and all this other stuff. I had to sell my house. I sold my house because of the barbecue business. I can tell you that, we'll talk about that later, but I had sold my house. I had no house. I was going to move to Kentucky with my one big smoker and start a barbecue business over there because I liked it there. It was a lot cleaner, no traffic. And I was just tired of a bunch of bullshit. And I'm like, well, okay, I don't have my house no more. I'm like moving. And then they hit me up and they're like, yeah, we got this restaurant. I'm like, well, it'd be foolish if people found out that I gave up a possible like restaurant where someone's actually financing it and they just want me to come in there and put my name on it and manage it and run it. And that was essentially what the deal was that I was going to do at the spot. So, and the meantime, I needed a place to cook and stuff like that. So then we had this building that was going to be a restaurant, and then there's a warehouse behind it and a parking lot behind that. So I used the warehouse to store my stuff. All the cooking goes on the smokers. We had like this overhang, so the 30-foot smokers fit right underneath the overhang. And so I was just, using it to either do catering or pop-ups there. We did like burger pop-ups. We did barbecue pop-ups at that location because we're going to open the restaurant. So there was this discussion at some point. They're going to need to come and put this grease trap in where I store all my stuff in this warehouse for the restaurant. So like, okay, no problem. It's going to take a day, they said. We'll move all your stuff out. We'll put it in. And then, you'll have plenty of notice, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's things that went down at the place that I don't even know what's going on. But like, there was a point where the investor became more distant from me. Like, I didn't know what was going on. And then all of a sudden in the clear blue, I get like a text saying like, mind you, I have all these events planned for the next couple of months. Like I'm doing catering and stuff like that. And I get this text saying, oh, you have like 11 days essentially to get all your stuff out of here because they're going to start doing construction in this garage, the area that you store your stuff at. And they're going to need to bring it all up to code, this and that. And your stuff will have to be out of there for over 30 days and then some. And I'm like, what the fuck? That makes it, what type of text is this? So I call the guy that's the investor, and essentially tells me that all my stuff have to be off the property because they're doing all this construction. There'll be dust everywhere. They need the garage to store stuff for, because there's homeless people that jump over the fence and they don't want them stealing any of the stuff they need for the restaurant. And I have to get my stuff out. And I'm like, well, so, what am I supposed to do? Like, how am I supposed to run my business? And his answer to me is, that's not my problem.
Damn.
And I'm like, that's pretty cold, So I said, okay, in my mind, I'm like, if I move my shit out of there, I'm not going back there. Like, the restaurant's not my problem because I already had reservations on whether we even wanted to do this spot, but I'm just like, well, you got to do it because you'd be stupid not to. Like every other guy out there, that's his dream. Like some guy comes in there and says, here you go, I'm going to give you this restaurant and, we're partners and stuff like that. And you just have to perform and I'll finance the whole thing. So anyways, I moved my stuff out of there, moved my smokers out immediately, and it was really hot, so I had to wait a few days to get my stuff out of there because that was almost like 120 degrees everywhere last week. So as I moved my stuff out of there, I knew I wasn't going back, but the guy wasn't compensating me or anything like that. Like if I was an investor, I'd be compensating the dude, saying, hey man, I got storage for you. Like you move your stuff in here and I'll help pay for it, or pay me just not to be working. Like he just like throwing me on the street basically, after I had this whole thing set up. And it's not like I got little stuff. I mean, I have two 30-foot smokers, a 15-foot smoker, and I had when I finally packed all my stuff up, it was a 26-foot box truck full of all my stuff. So luckily for me, one of my homies has a trucking facility, a 50 semi-truck facility and a warehouse. So my stuff is all at his facility over near Compton, and it's stored there right now. So I got all my stuff and moved out of there. And then after I moved out of there, I was like, I'm not going back. So I posted up, like the guy was still supposedly, I was going to be his business partner. I just had to move the stuff out and come back. That was like how it was left. But I don't think that was true at all. So I think that he wanted me out of there because, well, I'm still working on gathering information from other sources, but I think he sold the restaurant, or because I was right next to Moo's Craft Barbecue. So Moo's Craft Barbecue is 2 blocks from me. I don't like those guys. I mean, their food's fine, but I don't like the owners.
Okay.
I don't like them for a long time. I have beef with a lot of different food vendors that I just dislike, and I express that quite a bit online. That I just certain people I just don't like them. For whatever reasons. I mean, I've never really told all the reasons, but there's various reasons I don't like certain people. They've either screwed me over, done fuckery to me. I just cut you off. So I was posting up, watch out Moo's Craft Barbecue right down the street. Because I mean, my thing is I sell the food like a lot cheaper than everyone else does. Like the old prices, I sell everything for. So like my barbecue is just as good as theirs, if not better. And I'm gonna sell for 30% less. So we were down there, and so I know that there's enough people out there that dislike me that from what I understand, I think someone associated with them bought the rights of this restaurant possibly off my guy. We'll see. If there's like another burger spot there that has nothing to do with him, I know that's the case. But I'm waiting for a couple more people to confirm this. But there was a lot of, I was stirring up a pot because I was sitting there right next to them, and like, here I have, they're like, dude, this guy has 3,000-gallon smokers right there. He can cook tons of barbecue. Like I want to put him out of business. That was my whole goal. That was like the side goal besides making money there, is I could possibly, affect their business enough that they're going to be pissed off that I'm like taking all their customers, because who's not going to try another barbecue spot that's 2 blocks away? You can just walk down the street. But we weren't a barbecue spot. We weren't even a spot yet. I was just doing pop-ups. But I had plenty of success selling barbecue there, just doing it as my pop-up thing. We were filling my 1,000-gallon full, and I just recently got this 2,000. We never got to use that one yet, but that was going to be the next one, and we were going to fill that bad boy up, and now I could sell tons of barbecue out of there. But anyways, so now I know that they were definitely trying to erase my existence there, the investor, because we had this nice mural painted by the Geo Kid that said, like, it was like a Las Vegas sign, and it said, follow Bartz Barbecue on it. And they went, and 3 days after I was gone, I don't know how many days they did it, but I drove by there last night just by coincidence, because I was looking at another property. I'm like, oh, I want to see if they have any, like, because the investor had a bunch of stuff in the warehouse, so he was going to have to put it like in storage. So I want to see if there was like a storage container out there that they threw his shit in there, because maybe it is true that they actually are going to open a restaurant, this guy by himself, I guess. We'll see. But I just see the fucking painting, and my whole Bartz part is wiped out. Not like they wiped out the whole sign. Like they're going to use the sign
for whoever comes in.
For whoever comes in next, or what if they want the sign, they can use it, and they're going to use the sign to put a different name on it. Like how scandalous is that? I mean, that's just like like, well, I don't know. I mean, the sign may not be there because I post online, and there's a whole bunch of people that like to do fuckery shit that follow me. So I won't be surprised if the sign's tagged over all of a sudden or something happens to it, because, there is a bunch of random people that like to, stir the pot even more, when they see someone's like messing with me.
Right.
I've had like people's Instagram accounts shut down because we've flooded with so many comments before. I mean, all types of stuff. I mean, all the fucker I did started because of E-Zone. Because see, when I was in this one event, the Smokes Fest thing, he was mad that I wasn't going to wear this Buzz Lightyear outfit on it at the event, because we had to sell so many tickets. I told him I wear this Buzz Lightyear outfit. I'm like, we didn't sell that many tickets. He goes, doesn't matter. All my followers expect to see you in Buzz Lightyear. And I said, fuck you. I'm not dressing as Buzz Lightyear. Leave me alone. So he went on his show and posted my phone number and told everyone to call me.
Oh.
And so right in the middle of this event, when I'm trying to get everything together, I have like DJs coming in. Like my phone is like crucial, just to get messages from the people that I'm doing the event with. Oh man, my phone, I had to turn it off and up until almost the event started, because there were so many people calling me, send me dick pics, send me this, tell me that I'm ruining their kids' day. Yes, essentially, because the father won't be able to take a picture of me with Buzz Lightyear, and his kid is looking forward to him coming home with a photo of him with Buzz Lightyear. Like the fuckery that they sent, I never experienced anything like that before, and I was so mad at E-Zone. Like he comes there, he just has a big smile on his face, and like where's your Buzz Lightyear outfit, bro? And it's like, fuck you. Like he destroyed. So after that, I've posted various people's phone numbers on that, fuck around with me, and I've known, people getting all types of texts and stuff like that because of things like that. But also these other things I do, they're just bad influence, He's on, he likes to deal with a bunch of weird stuff, and it rubbed off on me to the higher degree, I guess. So yeah.
Now that you look back on it, you think you can laugh on it and be funny, but at the time you were pissed.
I expected nothing less from him.
You knew something was up.
I expected nothing. I mean, I didn't. That's not what I thought was going to happen. But I knew something. He was going to do something, because he wanted me in some stupid Buzz Lightyear outfit at the Smoke Fest event on Halloween. That was the whole thing, you know. And I
did you agree to something like if we sell X amount of tickets, I'll do it?
yeah, and we got nowhere near those now tickets. I lost a whole bunch of money during that event, and that was getting me more mad that now my phone number doesn't work, and now I'm losing money, and it's all because, you know, in his mind, it didn't matter. We sold a lot of tickets, and that was good enough, and I should have worn a Buzz Lightyear outfit. I even went on there, I was trying to find one like that day online, just so like this phone number thing would stop.
Right.
But that didn't happen.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, it was a very enjoyable day. That was another one of those days I almost like died from heat exhaustion because I stayed up so long trying to, you know, to make an event happen. But and the worst is when you make something happen, you know you're losing money. Yeah. Like a whole bunch. You're just like, well,
you're stressed and you're exhausted from the heat.
Yeah. It was yeah.
You said you lived in Austin for a little bit?
Yeah, I lived there like 3 years.
Okay, how's Austin?
See, I lived there, had to be like 16 years ago or so.
Okay.
16, I was there for like, yeah, probably like about 16 years ago. And like when I moved there, it was real early on before people in LA really started moving there. So it still was like what Austin was originally like, which was just like this inexpensive, nice place that like, you're like, man, I go to the bar and it's like, they actually have like happy hour. You're getting tall boys for like $1. Oh, you know, there was all types of stuff, you know, like everything was cheap. Like you knew people that were paying $300 in rent for like one room, and like, you know, their whole rent for their whole house was like $500. I mean, I lived at like in the Beverly, like what they consider like the Beverly Hills area of Austin, this Travis area, and you know, where all the houses are real big, and like, dude, we were paying like $600-700 each, me and my homie, for like this big ass house with a pool. So I was already making money like doing my security camera business in LA, but you know, you're making $100,000 a year in LA back then. It was like, oh, you're making pretty good money. You go to Austin, you're still making the same amount of money because all my shit was on the internet. I could just run the business from there. I mean, I felt like a millionaire. Like that was like the first time I ever felt like I actually had any money was when I was living in Austin, because everything was like really cheap. I mean, all the barbecue was awesome. You know, they had all these like this whole cool nightlife on like the 6th Street where it was just like, you know, crazy party every weekend, every day there. You know, just like it was like a madhouse. You know, it was the greatest time I ever had. Was like living there. I had too good of a time. That's why I had to move back. Pretty much. You know, like it was just like there was too much. But then, like, as the years have progressed, all their prices have raised up. So now they're expensive. They're like, you know, paying like LA prices. So with the fact that it's like 106 degrees sometimes during the summertime down there, not that it's not hot here in LA now, but it's hot there all the time. Like, I wouldn't want to live there now with all the extra expenses you got to pay. But back when I was there, before like the California people ruined it, I think, you know, by moving all down there, it was like, or before, you know, Tesla moved there and a bunch of other stuff, you know. Like that place was great. It was good time. It was, I mean, I've never had such a good time. Like, and like the best thing was you were like, it didn't cost you very much to do anything there. It was just like, everything was super reasonably priced. You know, and that's kind of like my whole thing with the burger business, like, or the barbecue business. Like everyone charges all these crazy prices nowadays. Yeah. And like, that's how I got some notoriety at one point, was when I made some statement that I'm gonna start charging $6 for the Wagyu smashburgers singles, because everyone's charging too much. And then that got picked up by some blogs and, you know, Instagram posts online, and got a bunch of people down there to start buying burgers off me like a couple years ago. And then ever since then, I've been selling everything at like the lowest price I can for like the pop-ups and catering and stuff like that. So, you know, everyone gets a good deal, but I usually don't have a shortage of business either. So it works out for me, because nowadays a lot of restaurants just can't get people in there.
Right.
No one wants to show up, and then you're paying all your employees a bunch of money, and that's how you go out of business. So, I mean, I was really looking forward to opening this restaurant thing to put all my stuff into like an actual restaurant to see if it actually all worked. Selling $6 burgers and like $3 French fries, and then we were gonna sell some barbecue on top of that, but guess not now. So now I'm like essentially homeless on the business, looking for a space. But yeah, Austin, Texas is a great time.
Do you feel like LA has a home or a city where barbecue is like king, or is it still? Because I feel like I've been to Moose, right?
I've been there plenty of times.
It's pretty good.
I'm not saying it's bad.
Right? But is there like a mecca for barbecue in LA?
No, see, the problem with the LA, okay, like, number one problem is the smoker thing. So, like, for whatever reason, Lincoln Heights in LA, they allow them to have that smoker outside the restaurants and be able to cook with that. But in a lot of cities, you can't use those outdoor cookers, and you have to use one of those to get like the legit Texas barbecue. It's like an offset cooker. There's a big old propane tank, and then there's a smaller propane tank. And the heat goes through that into the smoker, and you cook it. It's a big ass, to cook for a lot of people. My trailer's 30 feet long. I have two of those things, so they're big. You're out there, and the smoke comes off it. And people in LA, they're spending $2 million, $3 million for a house. They don't want to live right next to some dude out there with a barbecue smoker and blowing into their into their home. So majority of places, they don't let you use these smokers. So that's the first problem. So, it was in my mind going to be kind of cool if I did open the restaurant down from Moose, because then there'd be two of us there, and who knows, maybe you get another person down there and they all come down there, and next thing you know, that's the spot.
Barbecue lane.
Yeah, but that's not happening with me, at least. But there really isn't. There's Moose Craft Barbecue. There is Heritage Barbecue in like Oceanside.
Okay.
That has like legit smokers. There is the Smoke Queen. That's in like I think Santa Ana. I think so. I don't know, but it's in OC. And then there is in LA. They have an actual smoker that's a restaurant besides Moose. I think there might be another one. There's a place called Mega Texas. They're a little further out. They have like outdoor cookers, but that's the thing. There's only so many that have outdoor cookers that are restaurants. Now the pop-up scene, there's tons of them. Like that pop up at breweries or do special events like myself, or do catering and stuff like that. I mean, there's a whole bunch. There's like probably, I don't know, 50 at least that do pop-ups just in LA that have this, the outdoor, offset cooker and do the whole thing. But they're usually, they're all randomly, the only time you'll get them together is like if there's some sort of like event they put together and they're all there. But there's really no place you go to, like, I mean, like Texas or Austin, you drive like, 1 mile down the street, there's a barbecue spot. You drive down this way and there's sometimes two right next to each other. They're everywhere. They probably have like 50 barbecue restaurants / food trucks in Austin or more, just in Austin, let alone all the rest of Texas, where they have tons of barbecue, tons of spots. But here it's not like that. And it has to do a lot with all the regulations. Besides all the regulations on the restaurant, you have all the regulations on the smokers. So, that's what the problem is.
You used to have a hot rod?
I used to have I had a Charger one time.
Okay.
Like a 1967 Charger.
Okay.
I bought during the pandemic. And then like I had to sell it to finance Smokefest #2.
Okay.
At the last minute. That was like I got the last of the money. I had don't know what this guy did, but I mean I'm sure it was not legal means he got the money. Like literally he rolled up with socks, a couple socks with 20s just all rolled up in like these big ass socks, and he had the money I needed to get the car sold so I could finish my Smokefest. But I had this like 1967 Charger. It was fun for what it lasted.
Okay. Would you like race it on the street?
Oh, I didn't no, it wasn't ever a racing thing. It was just, I mean, it could go fast, I guess. I never really raced it because like the thing was like there was always some issue that like I kept on fixing all this stuff. Like in the end, I had so much money invested into the thing that it was one of those things that it looked great. And even my friends that were mechanics that like looked it over when I bought it, it sounded like it was everything. It was all there, and it was like everything was there. But when you started taking it, put on the lift, and then like start really looking at it in detail, then it was like, oh man, there's all this shit you got to fix that you really didn't see until you really looked into it. But yeah, it was a cool car.
I feel like during the pandemic, maybe before or after around that time, Traeger cookers or
Okay.
What is that? Is that a smoker or Traeger?
It's a pellet cooker.
Okay.
It's a smoker
So
of sorts.
is that like a good type of beginner type of smoker, or should you just get the one you have?
Well, see,
say you want to do some backyard stuff for your
Well, see, that's the thing. Most people don't want to spend the time. Like to do a brisket, it takes 12 hours minimum. I mean, minimum. It's really more than that. But it's because like you start cooking, and we'll say at 9 in the morning, and you're happy if it's done by 9 o'clock at night. Maybe done a little bit earlier, maybe longer, depending on like how many, how long it takes. I mean, that's on like an offset cooker. It takes 12 hours usually, but then you have to wait like 3 hours after that for it to cool down to a temperature that you put in this food warmer that stays there overnight. So technically, the entire process is like 24 hours from starting to cook it to when you eat it the next day, and that's the whole process on the pellet cooker. It takes the same amount of time, but you don't have to feed wood all those 12 hours, So it just has the pellets. So mine, you're every 30 minutes, you're throwing in a log, you have a fire. It's a fireplace that, the smoke and the heat go on one side of it, and the fire's on the other side, and that cooks the meat, the heat, and the smoke, like flavors it from the fire. But every 30 minutes, you're like throwing a log. You have to like look at the thermometers, make sure it doesn't get too hot. I mean, my smokers are so big that it's very hard to get it too hot when it's cooking because it's just like such a long tank. But on a little backyard one that's an offset, I mean, you're really spending time. You're making sure the pieces of wood are just a certain size, because if they're too big, the thing will spike up too hot in temperature. And then, where the pellet cooker, you just turn a knob, you say 275, 225, whatever you want to cook it at. Push a button, and it cooks it. I mean, you get a better result off the offset cooker, but for most home people, if you know what you're doing, your buddies will probably think you're the brisket king with your pellet cooker if you just know how to do all the steps properly besides the cooking part. Because the cooking part is just like an oven, essentially. The smoker is just like you put in the oven, but there's smoke around it. And the same with my cooker, it's just like an oven, but it's with a fire. And the actual process is like trimming it correctly. Like a brisket, you have to trim a certain way so that it cooks really good. And then, there's all these other processes you do in the process. And then as long as you know those, the pellet cooker is fine. I mean, I've cooked on plenty of pellet cookers. I mean, I've cooked on pellet cookers for people for catering, because like that was the only way I was able to get in their price point, where I didn't have to sit out there for like, a whole day just cooking a brisket or two for them to make it happen. So yeah, if you have the right knowledge, you can pretty much make good barbecue with anything.
Okay.
But I mean, it does taste differently. I mean, you could definitely tell like some difference between the all wood one and the pellet one. But like, unless you want to sit out there for 12 hours, which is cool once in a while.
Right.
But if you're going to use like once or twice a week, the pellet cooker is a lot better. Plus you can cook you get it really hot in there and put chicken in there and, whatever. I mean, before I sold my house, I used to cook like almost all my meals on my pellet cooker, because it never was in the house. So my house didn't smell like whatever I'm cooking. I didn't have to fool around with like a stupid oven and all this other stuff, heat my house up during the summertime. So yeah, I've cooked more barbecue on my pellet grill than probably was designed ever to even cook, because like, I mean, yeah, so I have like a Rec Tech, and they make really good pellet grills. But yeah, for most people, pellet grill's fine.
Okay.
It just you got to go on YouTube or whatever and find like all the techniques on how to make the food, because like if you know all the the trimming, when you wrap it, when you pull it off, when you do and all the steps, then that's how you make it so it tastes right, or it's tender, the right tenderness, cooked all the way and so forth. That's what's more important.
But you said you had to eventually sell your house to kind of fund the barbecue business?
Well, no, I didn't have to sell it to fund the barbecue business. I had to sell my house because, so like in the city of Lawndale,
Okay.
which is in South Bay by like Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach area, for anyone that knows that area. It's right next to it. So I stored all my stuff for my barbecue business there. Excuse me. There was one time where I was cooking there early on, but I stopped that after I started doing a bunch of breweries. So I wasn't ever cooking at my house, except for my personal stuff on like on the pellet grill or whatever. But I had a bit, not as big as smokers as I got now, but I had some big ass smokers and a bunch of other equipment, like my tables, my tents, all the stuff I was using for the business. I had this big backyard, and I stored all the shit there, like anyone else does. Well, in State of Lawndale, it's illegal to have anything connected to a business even stored at your house. That's the rules. There's usually no problems with this, except for I had some sort of neighbor, whoever it was, either you're probably a vegan or I didn't feed them apparently or something, because I fed almost everyone around me with extra food I had left over events just to keep everyone cool, you know, like, you know, because I was bringing equipment in at late at night, you know, I was bringing the equipment in there, but I wasn't cooking there. I was like, you know, sometimes the event gets over 11 o'clock, I have to back my smoker up down my driveway. But the neighbors near me, I don't think they were the ones that complained to the city, but someone complained to the city, and before the pandemic. And then I sent them a letter, and on the complaint it said, oh, you have all these unpermitted structures on your property. Like, all this shit was built before I even owned the house. Like some outdoor patio that was there, this big old concrete slab, and they didn't have permits. And City of Lawndale is one of those cities that you got to permit everything on your house. You know, they find out, and usually they'll never find out. Like, you put like electrical socket, replace that, it costs like $3 for a permit to put like just a new electrical socket, which is like other cities that care less, you do stuff like that. So anyways, there was this whole list of stuff that was unpermitted. My dad, and we had this letter written up by a lawyer, sent it to the city saying, hey, all this stuff was here before, you know, we own this place, and, you know, we didn't do any of this stuff, you know. So we never heard back from them. So we figured, you know, there was no fines, nothing. Heard from them for 4 years. Heard nothing. All of a sudden, we get a letter back saying, hey, we hear you're running a barbecue business out of there, and you can't run a barbecue business out of there. And then it had a list of even more stuff that was unpermitted at my house. So we just ignored the letter, because we thought it was just like some BS letter they sent us. And then all of a sudden, like 6 months later, we got a fine, or so a year later, we got a fine for like $100 or something, saying, hey, you need it. So my dad's like, screw this, pay the $100, and like, we're, you know, me and my dad are like, you know, screw these guys, you know, like, what are they going to do to us, you know? So then they sent us another letter saying that, okay, now it's $500 you owe us, and like, you need to come down because we're going to do an investigation in your house and this and that, blah blah blah. And so we go down to the city. We find out that there's all this stuff that they want to inspect on my house. They have to come there and go room by room. And everything else that they don't know about, they're going to find out, you know, whatever else that, I don't know. We didn't know what the hell there is, you know, what else could they find? So we knew for sure there was 200 square feet of my house that was not permitted, and all this other stuff. So because of the barbecue business, there's all this shit wrong with my house. That was nothing wrong with it, but the city thinks we got to like take some of the shit out, or that's what the end result's going to be. And so I was going to have to pay, like, in my mind, like, we figured like $50,000 to make all my stuff in compliance, pay for all the permits, whatever. I didn't have the money to do that. I was still broke, you know, like I didn't have money to pay $50,000. So we know a company, you know, that they know all the problems. They just offer us cash, you know, because I have a real estate license, or I did have one. My dad has one. My brother has one. So it was a good deal, because I mean, I bought the house a long time ago. I was making plenty of money, you know, by selling it. It also relieved some debt problems I had from past, you know, businesses that didn't go right and stuff. So I was like, screw it, let's just sell it. So I sold my house because of a hater of the barbecue business. So yeah, because of haters, I've sold my house. I had to go to court over a no trespass issue because of a brewery that disliked me to the point that they called the police on me on some bullshit, where I had to go to court on that. I have been posted as being a transphobic person over this burger like competition I was in, because I talked some crap about dudes going to girls' bathrooms or something on the internet. So I've been like, and then I've had a restaurant taken away from me. Dude, it's just like nonstop, like all this thing, and it just keeps on going. But the thing is, every time some bad shit like this happens, like the next thing that happens after, it's way better. So it's like, okay, I look forward to the bad shit now, because like now that like I don't have this restaurant thing I'm doing, I mean, I have all these new places I can start doing, you know, run my business out of. I mean, I'm still looking at them this week, but all these people hit me up online. So, I mean, I think the next thing where I'll be able to do my operation is going to be better than the previous thing I was doing. And I mean, so that's just kind of how, yeah, sold the house is a good one for, you know, that's a pretty big one for the barbecue business.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, but
house.
I mean, well, I had no choice. I mean, it was either that or pay $50,000, at least $50,000. Oh, and that's the thing. I would have had to like move out of my house, because some of the stuff was like in my house that we would have like there was like someone added 200 square feet to the house at one point. It was like an outdoor patio, and they turned it into a room. So they wouldn't. The city knew that this room, like via like satellite imagery from Google and some other stuff they had, that they knew that that part wasn't part of the house. So they were going to probably make me tear that whole thing out because we couldn't bring it to code, you know, with all the regulations they got. So I would have to move out of the house. I wouldn't be able to do my barbecue business and store my shit there because there would be dust and shit all over my house. So we're like, well, fuck, how am I supposed to make money and pay all the stuff I got to do if I can't run my business, you know, store my stuff there, even live there probably because there's going to be so much stuff that had to be fixed.
Yeah.
So I just left.
You still do catering?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's my main business.
Is there an order too small or too big? Like what are your specialty in catering? What are some of your prices? I would ask. In case people want to.
Yeah. Well, the barbecue catering, it has to be fairly decent size amount of people. Like it's like, I don't necessarily have a minimum. I mean, definitely the minimum is at least around $1,500 to $2,000 to do barbecue, but that's going to feed like 50, 60 people or something like that. So most people want catering for barbecue. They usually have a decent sized party. The burgers I do cheaper. It's like around $1,200 minimum for the burgers, but usually people want the brisket top burger. So it really comes out to like, you know, that burger is like $14 or something. So, you know, you're going to feed like 70 people. You can do like 70 burgers at least with that price point. I mean, to do it smaller than that, it's smaller gigs are harder for me to do just because I mean, especially in the barbecue business, because I have so much processes I have to go through to cook the barbecue, like that it has to be worth my while to do. Because like when I do an event and we're doing like a pop-up, I do a pre-sale thing. So I usually pre-sell out, sold out on the pre-sale. So there's like maybe some leftover stuff, you know, that I can possibly cook. So like, you know, I'm cooking like, you know, like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 worth of food for like a pop-up. So that makes it worth my while. But yeah, I mean, like there's so many hours you're involved in it. It has to be like halfway decent sized orders. So yeah, like, you know, $2,000 for barbecue. And that's, you know, that's a pretty decent price because some people charge you $2,000 for a lot less than what I'm offering you for that price. But we can bring the smoker out too. Like a lot of the later events I'm doing now, they want the smoker there. So I have like, you know, a smaller one that's like 14 feet long on the trailer. And then the big ones are like 30 feet. And so, you know, like I have 2 events like the next 2 weeks where I'm bringing the smoker there. I'm actually cooking almost everything on site for them. But that's like a whole extra fee. So like, you know, like they, you know, so we can do all the variations. But yeah, if you're going to do it for like 10 or 15 people, that I'm not the guy to call unless I'm already doing an event. And because that's what a lot of people do. They'll see I'm doing like a pop-up and they'll order a bunch of food off me, which is like, you know, several $100s worth, but then they can just bring it to their own event that they're doing. So I used to do it a lot more regularly, like where I was doing tons of pop-ups like before the pandemic, and like a lot of my business was all to go. Like people would just buy it because they're having like, you know, especially I did every Sunday. It was like they brought it to football and stuff where they're watching football ads, so they come over to my pop-up at a brewery or wherever I was at, buy a bunch of food, and then just take it. So yeah, that's more common. That's how people get the better price on the catering.
Do you think a brewery and your pop-up barbecue business is like a perfect marriage?
See, I don't do those breweries no more, actually.
Why not?
Well, I have a theory. So before the pandemic, there was not a lot of food vendors that did breweries. I mean, there was like, you know, I kind of knew everyone that did them, you know. I was one of the few barbecue guys. I mean, I was like the first, as far as I can tell, I was the first barbecue pop-up in Los Angeles, period, at any brewery when I started 8 years ago. I don't think there was anyone before me that was doing any type of Texas-style barbecue. No one that brought a smoker on site, even though I was doing real small scale back then, but I was like the first. So there was like all these, so over the time I did mainly South Bay, all these different breweries. And so everyone in South Bay knew me, like Bartz Barbecue. Oh, I'm gonna go out there and get, you know, I had a real following. Like when I showed up, people showed up, you know, and that was the whole thing back then. Like a brewery was not able to get a food vendor unless they're a poppin' brewery. Like there was people showing up. Like the breweries that had no one showing up, no food vendor would go there because they're like, I'm not making no money. But see, during the pandemic, everyone started making food and selling because that's what some people could do. They sat at home and it was real cute. You had like a little pop-up in your front lawn. Your neighbors came over and bought food. Well, when the pandemic stopped and that became was no longer a thing that you want to go to some dude's house and buy food. I mean, they still do it, but like not to the extent you did during the pandemic. For some people, that was the only thing you could do was go around and get a bunch of food. So all these people, they've made a business out of it. So they have to go to breweries. So now breweries, during the pandemic, they required like every brewery to stay open. They had to have food all the time. So now, even though that shit's over and there's no more pandemic, like all breweries want food all the time because they've seen the revenue it brings in. So they don't really, like, you being a food vendor is just like you're an accessory to the brewery now. It doesn't matter who the fuck you are. I don't care if you're the most popular guy on the planet. You might have a following and might bring people down there, but the breweries aren't saying like, oh yeah, Friday we're having like Bartz Barbecue. I mean, maybe they might say that to some breweries, but most it's just like, we have a food vendor. You know, they're not promoting you. Like, no one's excited to go to that brewery to get that food vendor. You know, there may be a few guys out there that still have like a following where people do show up if you're doing it. All the food vendors are just like an accessory, like, because it's like they want you there all the whole time they're open, like 12 hours, we'll say, like, or you know, say the brewery's open from noon to like 10 o'clock. They want some food vendor there for 10 hours. I never worked 10 hours at any brewery unless it was like an anniversary party or some shit where there was a ton of people there. I would go there with like, you know, $5,000-$6,000 worth of barbecue. Usually never did pre-order back then because that wasn't a thing, you know, before the pandemic. I'd show up there. I'd be sold out in 3 hours. There'd be a bunch of people showing up there. After that, there's no food at the brewery. You go home. Brewery's happy because for 3 hours, you brought all these people in there and it was like a whole event. But see, nowadays, that's not the case. It's just like, you're like Denny's, you know, it's just like, you know, there's just some food guy there. No one cares who it is. They just go and buy it. So that doesn't help your business at all as a food vendor. And it also doesn't help that they want you to be there all these hours, both their slow hours and their busy hours, you know, because if you're there all day, they're not busy all day long. And so it really hurts the food vendors because they got to pay people to be there all these hours, or you as an owner get just frustrated because you're sitting there. Because I mean, I see guys all the time. I just watch them when they're drinking a beer at a brewery, and I just feel bad for a lot of them because you just see like an hour you're sitting there and they sold like 2 things, you know, because like, but they're just there because, you know, like there's not a brewery around that in LA that you can't. It's not like a month waiting list to be a food vendor there every day practically in some cases. And there's some breweries that like are open Mondays and they might see 50, 25 people in the whole day. But they want some food vendor there, and like people are so desperate now to like make money that they're willing to like just lower their standards so low that, okay, if I sit out there and made like $50, it's like, fuck that, I'll go work at Costco or something, you know. Like I that's my thing. I always have to make sure I'm making my money when I'm doing whatever I'm doing, and I try to avoid situations. Like, I'm really good at avoiding situations that we don't make money at. Yeah. You know, like, because I've done it so long. And so that's the reason I don't do the breweries, is because I don't feel that majority of them give you enough credit to, like, try to really promote that you're there. And the people just don't care as much. Like, I don't think. Like, I have a very good following because I do all types of other stuff besides the food. And there's always some sort of drama. It's almost like a TV show on my Instagram at times. Like, what's going on? And it's not like I purposely making this happen. Just it happens, and I post up about it. So I have a, you know, and from doing all these different things, like different podcasts and different shows, and you know, like this whole like talking on the podcast thing. This is not my thing. I'll let you know. Let you know this. It's not like my thing. Like when I started this thing, I did not want to do that. Like when I was the first 3 years, I was like, no, I don't need to be on no podcast. I'm just going to make the food. I mean, I had no problem. I showed up at the breweries and they were, you know, people all bought the food off me. I didn't have to do that. I mean, once in a while, like some foodie person would come down, or I'd be like in a newspaper article, or, you know, some sort of, you know, whatever on the internet, you know, because when I first started, Instagram was not even around. It was like 2016. It just started like 2017. So there was like Facebook, and that's how you promoted yourself back when I first started. But then now, like, in order for people to care anything about your food business, you have to do all this other stuff. So like being on like the Green Thumb show, or, you know, here, or, you know, E-Zone's podcast or whatever, or just posting random shit I do with whoever I hang out with, like that keeps people's attention. It seems like a lot more to like really pay attention to when I'm doing like some food posts, like I'm doing an event. Right. Whereas like, you know, it used to be like you post like the best brisket, your Instagram would go crazy. You get all these likes and all this type of stuff. Nowadays, it's like, there's all types of good briskets on there. So it's just like, oh, it's another food pick. Like, who cares about that? But then you see me over there, like putting a dog collar around my neck at the Dr. Green Thumb show and having Aton test out what a 80% charge is. And they film me and I post it on Instagram. It gets people's attention. They're like, what the hell is this crazy dude doing? You know, like, you know, and, or, when I pass out at an event, most people would not be posting up that, or have people posting they passed out at an event, and there I am, you know. But like, you know, it all adds to, you know, people like, oh, what's going on in Bartz Barbecue now? Oh, now the sign's getting painted over. People stole my signs. That was another one. Like when I had the restaurant place, we put all these banners outside, and it was someone that got pissed off because I was saying dudes that have dicks should not be in girls' bathrooms, and I don't care if wait, you know, what trans whatever you are. If you're a dude and you have a dick, don't go in a girl's bathroom. Choose the guy's bathroom. That's the way it's supposed to be. So I post that shit up, and someone that was supportive of said I was anti-transphobic or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. That's just biological facts. They stole my signs, and we had the video of them, and I posted up what they look like. I didn't even actually post the video, and they got so scared they came back and dropped the signs back off at our location. Like, that was the first time I felt like some sort of power on the internet. I was like, this is crazy. Like, I've said this guy was some blonde-haired, long-haired dude with like a gray truck or SUV or something like that. That's all I said. It was one of my stories. Sure enough, next day later in the morning, that dude, they're all folded up, all the banners, and like thrown back over. So like don't come after me. Like, don't send your followers. Like, don't post who I am. You know, it was like, dude,
is that all you wanted? Just your sign back? You left.
I didn't even think that was an option. I didn't think no one was giving my sign back. We got them back. I just thought it was funny that someone like, people have so little balls now that they steal your shit and then they throw it back. I would not steal. I would have fucking lit it on fire, filmed it, had someone post it and tag me in it, like, we fucking took your signs. Fuck you. What are you gonna do about it? Like, the fact that anyone got scared and threw their shit back at me, it was just made me laugh.
Yeah.
Like, it just like, what type of pussy shit is that? I mean, that's the first thing almost everyone said. That's like the pussiest shit I've ever heard. And it's like, yeah, it is. Why would you throw them back? Because I didn't even post the video of you. I did eventually post. I mean, this video we had. I mean, you get to see. It was what I described. You couldn't tell who it was. It wasn't. They're too far away from the the focal length of the camera to really tell who it is. But I didn't care who it was. I just couldn't believe that someone would actually come there and climb up, because like the signs were like tied with like high with wire, and with like you had to fucking cut the sign like with a razor blade, and it was like hung up on these poles. So like the dude did this whole acrobat thing where he just climbs up there and it's like hanging off on the side and cutting it with this. It was a comedy to watch the video, because I was like, man, that guy really wanted that sign. Like, the other one he just took off the fence, but the one was like, we made it so that the wind wouldn't take it out or nothing. It was on there super secure, and like I was just like, yeah. So weird shit like that happens to me. People stealing my signs.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
We're gonna end the show right there. Thank you so much for pulling up to the podcast and sharing your story with us. Let the people know where they can find you and where you're gonna be out in the next couple weeks.
So the only thing I have going on for the public right now is like I have Thanksgiving Day orders. So you can pre-order briskets or turkeys for Thanksgiving. So you can go to bartzbarbecue.com. That's where all the Thanksgiving Day stuff is. And then, or you go on Instagram, which is Bartz, B-A-R-T-Z, and then a period, and then barbecue spelled out, which is B-A-R-B-E-C-U-E. I will be doing one event for sure. That's Kushstock. So that's October 26th. I'll be there. We have our big 30-foot smoker there, and a big-ass tent that's ready to sell a lot of barbecue. So we'll be there starting to prep the day beforehand and have a bunch of barbecue on October 26th, and that's in that Adelanto event center. So yeah, those are the only things I have public right now, are those two things. I'm like, because right now I'm still trying to move my business from my restaurant location to some new facility. Once that happens, there'll be probably a post online of things I'm doing every week.
What are the prices for the Thanksgiving stuff?
Right now, well, they're on sale right now for like another week. You get like a brisket for $175. That's like 6 to 7 pounds. That's the most expensive thing. You can get hams right now for $80. So it's like smoked ham. Then we double smoke it with like a bourbon glaze on it. I got turkey, whole smoked turkeys are the big boy ones, like 17 to 20 pounds. And those are like $89 right now. And
That's pretty good.
and then I got the smoked turkey breast is the other one. So it's like a 4-pound breast, and those are like $79.
When you have to go pick it up from you, right? You go to you to pick them up.
Yeah, so I do the pickup in the South Bay.
Okay.
The location's to be determined right now. We might just do it like how we did last year, where we literally cooked them on the side of the road in front of this golf course, because that's where I used to do a bunch of pop-ups at until the CHP shut me down over there. But I figure on Thanksgiving they have better things to do than worry about what I'm doing there. So we might roll up with 2 30-foot smokers on the side of the road, cook all the turkeys for everyone. The briskets we cook those ahead of time. So all the pickup is going to be down on somewhere in the South Bay, probably in Lawndale or Redondo. There's these 2 spots that I'm still working on trying to figure out where the pickup is. So like right now you buy it off me, somewhere in the Redondo Beach, Lawndale area most likely is going to be the pickup. I just put them up right now because people are already asking. That was the thing. Like I might be sold out of all the stuff I can cook in the next 2 weeks at the rate it's going. I mean, it's going pretty fast. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I sold like $8,000 in Thanksgiving Day stuff already in like 10 days. So yeah.
Well, but my question is, you go pick it up. What's the proper way to store it?
I misunderstood. Oh, so when you pick it up to me, it's hot, ready to go.
Right.
So I mean, with pickup times, like I do it from 11 to 1.
Okay.
So I figure most people that you're going to your lunch. I mean, unless you're going to be really late dinner, like most people eat like lunchtime or around there. So that way, so you just pick up meat, bring a cooler with you, and you can just stick in a cooler, and a cooler will keep it hot for like 3-4 hours at least.
Okay.
So you can just put in a cooler, bring it to your location. If it's close by, you're in, like, a lot of my customers are in South Bay.
Right.
They just pick up me, go right to their, Thanksgiving Day dinner. And if you're trying to eat it later in the day, you can just turn your oven on, and I tell you how to keep it, like, you just want to keep it warm.
Yeah.
Like 140 in temperature is like the safe zone for like food. So like, you can keep, you take it out of the oven, you can put it back in the oven, heat it back up a little bit more, and just kind of baby it until your dinner's ready. But I mean, some people eat it cold. I mean, some people don't even eat on Thanksgiving. They just buy it off me and they're going to eat it like that weekend or something,
Yeah, because those Mexicans, we have like Christmas dinner and Thanksgiving dinner is 5 or 6 p.m.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, the brisket's the easiest thing to keep warm for sure. And probably the turkey breasts. The turkeys, I would recommend trying to eat them somewhat after I cook them, because my whole thing is I'm trying to cook 120 turkeys and have them all done at the same time in like this little time window I have for pickups, because like I have no way to keep them warm myself. They're like, it's caveman style. I don't have enough food warmers to keep 120 turkeys. So you roll up and like, here's your turkey. It's like literally you're going to roll up and we're going to have some turkeys done, and we're going to be handing them off to people as they come. And then we just hope that the traffic flows a certain way that we can get everyone's done. And like last year, some people had to wait like 20 minutes there while I finished it off, it just depends. But I mean, we get it to you like it's hot and fresh, it hasn't been stored nowhere. It's like right off the smoker. And then, the turkey's good for several hours like that without even being,
Do you wrap it up in like foil in a tray? And then
it's like a tray. And the turkeys are a tray and we wrap it foil on top of it. And then like the briskets they all come self-contained in this butcher paper just on a foil pan. But like they're like 7 pounds, so like they'll stay warm when I give it to you for like 3 to 4 hours after that. Okay. I mean, before you have to worry about anything. I give everyone directions. Everyone kind of tells me what they're doing when I give them the thing, the item, and I kind of like give them like a little either a text or a pep talk on what to do to get it where it's going. But yeah, it works out well that way. I mean, the turkey apparently last year. I mean, we didn't do much different, but I used a better smoker. But everyone was texting me. Like, I never got so many texts from people saying they liked something. I mean, I don't really take a whole lot of people's, like, when they say they like something, it's like, okay, it's just better than whatever else you had, Because, I mean, I didn't go to my head at all. But that year, I was like, damn, dude. Out of like 40 turkeys I sold, I think I got like 30-some texts from people saying that it was like the best turkey they ever had. So I was like, man. I guess a pretty good turkey then this year. I mean, I had one myself and I thought it was pretty good, but the turkey breast is where it's at. I'll tell you that. That's the new item that I haven't done for a long time, but yeah, we've been doing that lately, and I love the turkey breast.
Put me down for a turkey breast and a brisket. I'm sold. Again, thank you for pulling up. If everyone's still watching this, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Check out our new Patreon tier, $30. You get a new shirt and a new hat every month, one or the other. Thank you guys for pulling up. Bart's got to go. He's a busy guy, so we're going to stop the podcast right there. Thank you guys for watching. Pull up, turn up, stay lit. Let's get it.